is quite unexpected. What is up, you guys? I am BC King. It is time for yet another tier list video, and as you guys can see, we got some WWE in here because if you guys may or may not know, I used to be a very big time fan of WWE. I would watch it every single week, Raw, SmackDown, the pay-per-views, and then I think the late 2010s I kind of started falling off a bit, and I think 2022 is when I kind of fell off completely because I didn't like the company at that time. But now we got Triple H in charge. Things are great. I love the storytelling again. So I've been getting back into things finally. So I thought what would be fun was to go back to when I started watching WWE, which was 2007. I think it was like November, which is when the Survivor Series was. So yeah, it's been quite a ride. But anyway, for this tier list, we are ranking every single pay-per-view from 2007. So, let's go right into it, and, we're gonna do one take, because why would we do multiple ones, because there's not really a reason to. In case I forget, I do have every single, match card, up on my PC here, in case I forget what matches took place. So, to start, we have New Year's Revolution 2007. This one had, Rated RKO versus DX for the World Tag Team titles. We had John Cena against Umaga for the WWE title. And then we had a bunch of other just kind of their matches. This one was not that bad, although it is kind of forgettable. I think what really kind of ruins it is just the fact that the matches weren't... I don't know, how do I put this? They weren't bad, but... they're not really matches that are worth going back to for the most part. I mean, the first match, which was the steel cage match for the between Jeff Hardy and Johnny Nitro, that was a good one. But then Crime Time versus the tag team turmoil was just all right. Kenny against Ric Flair, But I will say, the tag team match between Rated RKO and DX was pretty goddamn good. And it had a pretty violent ending where, you had chair shots being thrown around, you had elbow drops through announce tables. So, that match for me was definitely the highlight of the entire pay-per-view. And then the other highlight, which isn't quite as big, but it is, John Cena ending Umaga's undefeated streak, and handing him his first loss. But aside from that, this pay-per-view was just kind of there. So, I think this one for me is kind of a C tier. Again, not a bad pay-per-view, but could have been better. But it was overall fine for what it was. And now we go on to the Royal Rumble 2007. And this one we had, of course, the Royal Rumble match. We had Cena against Umaga in a brilliant last man standing match. I adore that match so much. That is, like, very underrated. And then you have the other matches. You have Bobby Lashley against Test for the ECW title. Batista against Mr. Kennedy for the World Heavyweight title. And those matches were just alright. The ECW one was kind of because it had a count-out victory. The tag match between the Hardys and Eminem was fine. The Rumble match, I think it's good, but I think it's definitely not the best Rumble match from the 2000s. I think there are definitely better ones out there, which we'll get to in a bit, or which we'll get to in other, tier lists down the line. But this one was pretty good. We had The Undertaker, we had Shawn Michaels, we had, ECW, of course, got involved. We had really no surprise entrance, though, which is kind of what the Rumble is known for at this point, is, like, these, you know, Hall of Fame surprise entrants that, like, make the crowd pop, and this one didn't have any. Like, they were all from either Raw, SmackDown, or ECW. There was really no... There was no, like, super-duper surprise entrance, so... it doesn't really affect the overall Rumble for me personally, but... you know, I mean, to be fair, back then, the Rumble wasn't as known for these surprise entrants as it is nowadays, where, like, people expect a couple surprises here and there for every Rumble match. But this one was good, I will say. Not the best one, but it was good. And then, of course, we got the Last Man Standing match. In my opinion, one of the best Last Man Standing matches in WWE history. I gotta say, I think the storytelling was great. We had that fully bloodied up John Cena, and you see him like wrap the rope around Umaga and make him pass out, and then that's how he wins. That match was fantastic, but again, we gotta rate the overall event, and overall, I think it's barely still a B tier, but definitely far from the best overall Rumble event that the company has produced. But for what it was overall good, and I enjoyed it. Alright, next up we have No Way Out. Now this one, oh man, I got some thoughts on this one. I haven't watched every No Way Out pay-per-view that's ever been, like, produced, but this one might be one of my least favorite in terms of, like, match quality and whatnot. Because here's what we have, right? We have freaking Finley and the Little Bastard, which is Hornswoggle, against the Boogeyman and the Little Boogeyman. That match was god-awful. I hated that match. And then what else? King Booker against Kane was alright. The ECW one was kind of just alright as well. We had the unfortunate DQ finish. The main event though, we had John Cena and Shawn Michaels against Batista and The Undertaker. That is like a sorry, hold on. That is like a super duper all-star match. You got like 4 of the biggest names in the entire company in one match. And basically it was WrestleMania main event against WrestleMania main event, where we had Cena and Michaels, who were going to be in the main event at that time, versus Undertaker and Batista, who were fighting for the world title at that event. And the match overall was pretty damn good. It could have been a little bit better, but it was a really good main event. But the rest of this pay-per-view, for me, was kind of bad. I did not really enjoy this one, and for that reason, I might put it in D, but I can see it being put in C. Like, maybe just a really, really low C tier. Like, there were just not good matches here, overall. I hated that Little Bastard Boogeyman tag team match. The ECW one was just alright. The Divas one was kind of forgettable, which it usually was at the time of the company anyway. And the rest was just fine to okay. So, yeah, another C tier pay-per-view. What's not a C tier though, for sure, is WrestleMania 23 in Detroit, Michigan. This one, at the time, was the highest grossing event for the company in history. Nowadays, it's obviously not, because other ones have happened. But this WrestleMania was pretty damn good, I gotta say. We had an excellent Money in the Bank ladder match at the start of the pay-per-view. We had, oh god, the Great Khali and Kane. That match was awful. One of the worst matches in WrestleMania history, in my opinion. That one was just a fucking slog. A pretty forgettable Chris Benoit and MVP US title match. It was kind of just alright. But after that, we had a very, very hidden gem between The Undertaker and Batista for the World Heavyweight title. This one does not get enough love. Is it a 5-star match? Not really. Is it a damn good world title match? Hell freaking yes. I love this match. I have always loved it. It deserves more love, and I really enjoyed it. It is a very, very hidden gem in terms of world title WrestleMania matches. Then we had the Battle of the Billionaires between Bobby Lashley and Umaga, with Donald Trump in Bobby Lashley's corner. We had Mr. McMahon in Umaga's corner. That match was more so for the entertainment than the wrestling value. Like, if this was a wrestling match, like if we were judging it based off of that, it'd be kind of a bad match. But in terms of entertainment and how much the crowd was into it, it was pretty good. And then, of course, you got Mr. McMahon getting his head shaved, of course. And then, we have, in my opinion, one of the best, one of the best WrestleMania main events from the 2000s, being John Cena and Shawn Michaels for the WWE title. This was an instant classic for me. Like, they wrestled for nearly 30 minutes, and I enjoyed every single bit of it. The moves, the storytelling, the action, it was just all great stuff. And I think this match right here is where John Cena really, showed the world that, he is the guy. He is the next big thing. He is the company's face, because he he not only beat Mr. WrestleMania at WrestleMania, he made him tap out in an instant classic, and it was great. So for me, it's not quite an S tier, but it is definitely an A tier WrestleMania. I think it has a lot of entertainment value, a lot of good wrestling, a lot of good storytelling, but there are better ones out there. We'll get to that in future tier lists, but as far as this WrestleMania, pretty damn good, and I had a really good time with it, and it's one of my more classic and enjoyable WrestleManias out there. Alright, now we get to Backlash, which is always the event that, you know, precedes WrestleMania, or not precedes, follows WrestleMania, because it's like the Backlash of WrestleMania. This one is pretty solid. We had, the Hardys beating Lance Cade and Trevor Murdoch. We had Lita and Mickie James for the women's title. We had, Benoit and MVP once again. Now we get to the handicap match for the ECW title. And this, for me, had one of the worst booking decisions of any match in 2007, where they had Mr. McMahon, the owner of the company, pin Bobby Lashley to win the ECW title. I don't know why they thought it was a great idea to put the title on Mr. McMahon, because what benefit is there? Hell, Umaga's in the match. Put it on Umaga. That'd be great. Put him on ECW. Could have really helped him. But no, you give it to freaking Mr. McMahon. Because he has to have a world title because he's that fucking arrogant. And, you know, it's unfortunate. But that match was bad. And I hated it. And then we have, of course, the Last Man Standing match between Undertaker and Batista for the world title. That was a good one. Not quite up to their WrestleMania Classic, but it was another really good match between the two of them. What is really, really good and is very underrated is the Fatal 4-Way match between John Cena, Edge, Randy Orton, and Shawn Michaels. This match had some great storytelling, and the ending, where you see Shawn Michaels super kick John Cena onto Randy Orton, who then pins Randy Orton before it can be broken up. Some call it kind of cheap. I call it kind of creative because Shawn Michaels was right there. He was about to win the title, and then he didn't see John Cena make the cover, and it cost him. So, for me, it was a pretty creative ending. So yeah, overall, besides the really bad handicap match, this one was a really good pay-per-view. I would say probably like a very high B, above Royal Rumble. I overall enjoyed it, but that handicap match and that decision of giving McMahon the title can go to hell. That was not a good decision. I don't know why I did that. Alright, now we have Judgment Day 07. So for this one, we have another freaking handicap. Oh, God. Hold on. Give me a minute. We have another handicap match between Bobby Lashley and the McMahons and Umaga. Did you not see how horrible the first one was? Where you gave McMahon the title, and then you do it again? You have Lashley pin Shane McMahon, but then Vince is like, oh, you didn't pin me, so I'm still the champion. Like, really? Really? What a fucking assload. I hated that so much. Ugh, it triggers me. Alright, as far as the rest of the card, though, we had Punk and Elijah Burke, pretty good match. We had Orton against Shawn Michaels, a pretty good match. Really good storytelling, too, with Shawn being injured because of an attack by Randy Orton. We had Edge and Batista in a kind of forgettable world title match. I mean, they've had better matches down the line, which we'll get to. But this one was just kind of... It was alright. And then we had MVP finally beat Chris Benoit for the United States title, which would be Chris Benoit's final match because he, you know... if you know, you know. And then we have the main event, which is John Cena against the Great Khali for the WWE title. It was an 8-minute match, and it was kind of slow. And the whole ordeal there was that John Cena could not get the Great Khali down. He couldn't get the STF on, and he eventually did. But apparently Khali's foot was on the rope, and the hole should have been broken, but it wasn't, so he tapped out. Kind of a meh ending and kind of a meh match. That should have been the main event, honestly. I don't know, but this one is just kind of an alright pay-per-view for me once again. I would say probably like a high C tier, like just above these two, but overall not bad. It's just it's a good pay-per-view. And overall, yeah, it's alright. Alright, now we got One Night Stand, which was the final one, or no, it wasn't, because that was next year, but we got One Night Stand 07. So, if you guys don't know, this one, like, every match is extreme, so we have, like, ladder matches, table matches, steel cage matches, street fights. So, this show is basically where every match has an extreme stipulation. So, we have RVD against Randy Orton in a stretcher match. That one was pretty good, although I think Randy Orton should have won that one. Honestly, it shouldn't have been RVD. It should have been Randy Orton, but whatever. The tables match was good. We had a very good ladder match between the Hardys and the World's Greatest Tag Team, Benjamin and Haas. That was a good one. Mark Henry and Kane in a lumberjack match. Probably the worst match in the show, if we're being real. Or, actually, no. We'll get to that one later. We had Lashley against McMahon. He finally beat McMahon for the title in a street fight. It was not a handicap match. Thank God. Easily the best match they've had. It was still kind of bad, though. The worst match by far was a 3-minute pudding match between Melina and Candice Michelle. Who the hell's idea was it for a pudding match? Basically, you put the people into a pool of pudding and they fight it out, and you win by pin or submission. This was a waste of time. And the way it ended, guess what? Candice takes Melina's face, shoves it into the pudding, and Melina, who apparently can't breathe, whatever, taps out. What an assload of a match. Unreal. Now, it's not an assload, though, is the steel cage match between Edge and Batista for the world title. Definitely better than their Judgment Day match, but not by a whole lot. And, of course, we had Edge winning. Good decision, because Edge was, you know, starting to break out as world champion, finally. And then the main event. We had Cena once again against the Great Khali for the WWE title, this time in a Falls Count Anywhere match. Now, I will say the ending was pretty damn cool, where we saw John Cena FU the Great Khali off a, what is it, a crane or something, and then he pinned him, and, you know, that was cool. But again, like Judgment Day, their match was just alright, not that great. But yeah, if I had to rank this one, honestly, it'd probably be a B tier, like very, very low B tier. Not the best extreme pay-per-view ever, but it wasn't bad. But that pudding match can go die in a hole, for all I care. Horrible match, horrible decision, and if that was your idea, fire yourself. It was so bad. Alright, now we have Vengeance, aka the Night of Champions, where every title is on the line. This was the final Vengeance pay-per-view until, I think, 2011, where they brought that name back. So yeah, we had the Hardys against Cade and Murdoch. That was a decent opener. We had Chavo against Jimmy Wayne Yang. That was a pretty good one as well. We had Johnny Nitro beat CM Punk surprisingly for the ECW title. Now, if you guys remember, this would have been Chris Benoit, but something happened, and Nitro ended up being the guy who replaced Benoit in the match and then beat CM Punk. We had MVP against Ric Flair, kind of an alright match. Santino against Umaga, another alright match. We had Jimmy Snuka and Sergeant Slaughter, two very old Hall of Famers, in a tag team match for the tag team titles, and yeah, enough said. We had Edge and Batista once again, where if Batista lost, he couldn't fight Edge for the title again. He lost, like, what, twice, I think? Because I think the first match ended by DQ, and then they restarted it, and then he lost by countout, so kind of a shit ending, but that's alright. Then the main event, we had a 5-pack challenge between John Cena, Bobby Lashley, King Booker, Mick Foley, and Randy Orton. It was only 10 minutes, so could have been a bit longer, but for what it was good. It was fine. We had Cena beat Mick Foley to win the match. But yeah, overall, as far as Night of Champions pay-per-views goes, this one was not that great. And I gotta say, it's probably like a mid to high C tier. Like, maybe about, I would say probably right here, honestly. Like, if I had to rank it, like, based on match quality, they weren't all that great. Like, you should not be putting freaking 2 Hall of Famers in a tag title match where they can't even, like, you know, compete that well anymore. I don't know what they were thinking, but it's whatever. But, yeah, overall, pretty okay, Night of Champions pay-per-view. Now we have the Great American Bash, which starts off with a very forgettable, US title match between MVP and Matt Hardy, and, that ending with the Playmaker, did that seem kind of slow to anybody? Because it did to me. It was a pretty slow and kind of, ending. I don't know why, but, oh, what happens afterwards, though, we have Hornswoggle winning the Cruiserweight title in the Cruiserweight Open. Called a bad decision, I love this. Giving him the title was such a good decision. I don't care what anybody says, it was the right call. And, I mean, he is a Cruiserweight, he's allowed to hold it. So, there you go. They went nowhere with it, unfortunately. Didn't he get, like, stripped of it or something? But it was fine. We have a Singapore Cane on a pole match between Carlito and the Sandman. Pretty alright for the most part. We had Candice against Melina once again. We had Umaga and Jeff Hardy. We had Johnny Nitro, who's now being called John Morrison, beating CM Punk for the ECW title. We had Randy Orton beat Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream, rest in peace, in a Texas Bull Rope match, which was kind of meh for the most part. We had a pretty slow triple threat match between the Great Khali, Batista, and Kane for the world title, where Khali won, whatever. The main event, though, we have Cena against Bobby Lashley, which was then Bobby Lashley's final pay-per-view match until, what, 2018? And this match is very underrated. See, here's the thing. I can see why people thought that Lashley should have won this match, because he was red hot. He just had the ECW World title and was just a freaking dominant powerhouse. So I can see why people were kind of upset that he didn't win the title here. But honestly, I think they already had their sights set on Randy Orton being one to dethrone John Cena, which happened in a not so great way, which we'll get to in a bit. But yeah, this match was great. So if we were just ranking that match, it'd be probably like an A tier, but overall, this pay-per-view was just alright, and I think I can see it being put in B tier, like maybe like a low B tier. But yeah, it was just another alright pay-per-view for me. Oh, now we got SummerSlam. Here we go. SummerSlam 07. The return of Triple H and Rey Mysterio in the same night, and both matches were pretty good for the most part. We had Kane and Finlay in a singles match to start out the pay-per-view. We had a pretty okay triple threat match for the IC title between Umaga, Carlito, and Mr. Kennedy. We had, of course, Mysterio making his grand return. We had a Women's Battle Royal. We had John Morrison yet again beat CM Punk. And I should mention real quick that for some reason they made these finishes for Morrison and Punk kind of weird. Like, I don't know, they felt like very, very slow and not great. Like, we had one finish where I think Morrison got his knees up and then pinned Punk, like, right afterwards. I don't know, I think they could have been better than what they were, but they were fine for the most part. We had Batista against the Great Khali in a pretty not-so-great match for the World Heavyweight title, where Batista used a freaking chair against Khali, which, like, why would you do that? Like, they're gonna get disqualified. Like, I don't know why he did that. Like, if you're the challenger, right, why would you ever get yourself disqualified on purpose and then not win the title? Like, stupid. The main event, we had John Cena against Randy Orton, in which Cena was victorious. I think people were kind of upset that Orton didn't win here, but we'll get to that in the future, because something does happen. But yeah, overall, in terms of quality, a pretty good SummerSlam. I would say probably an A tier. Maybe not above WrestleMania, but, well, here's the thing. if we're ranking this based on just the wrestling quality, I think I'd probably put SummerSlam over WrestleMania. But in terms of entertainment value and spectacle, I think WrestleMania still holds the crown for this list so far. But SummerSlam overall was pretty damn good, and I was pretty damn happy to watch it. So, yeah, good matches, good quality, good storytelling here and there. So, pretty good event. Alright, now we're on to Unforgiven. Now, this one had the return of The Undertaker after being injured by Mark Henry. But here's the thing. Why was that the main event? Why was that the main event? It was not a good match. It was like 11 minutes and it was bad. Like, I get the reason why is because, you know, we had the return of The Undertaker. But did that have to be the main event? It was not great. I would have put, like, Cena and Orton in the main event because their match had a pretty not good finish, but the match was a lot better than Mark Henry against The Undertaker. And then the rest of it, let's see here. We have Punk against Elijah Burke, pretty okay match. We have Matt Hardy and MVP against Deuce and Domino, pretty okay match. We have Triple H against Carlito in a no DQ match where the rules only apply to Carlito. So Triple H can still be disqualified, but Carlito cannot. Kind of a weird rule there, and I don't know if it works that well, but the match was good. It's just, I'm not really... I don't know. I mean, it was a way to, like, make Triple H lose, and he still won. So, I get the story there, but I kind of hope they don't bring that back, where it's like, oh, only one person has the rules applied to them, because it's kind of just... It makes things too wonky for me. We had Batista winning the world title against the Great Khali and Rey Mysterio in a triple threat match. That was pretty okay for the most part. We had Orton against John Cena, which had a pretty, it had a pretty weird finish. So basically, Cena got disqualified because he wouldn't stop hitting Orton, like, over and over again. Over and over again. I think, was this after Orton kicked his dad in the head? I think it was, right? And I think that's why Cena, just couldn't stop beating on Orton because he was so pissed that Orton literally kicked his dad in the head before the pay-per-view happened. And yeah, it was good storytelling, but the finish was just not that great. And the overall show, it's definitely a C tier. I would say probably worse than No Way Out, because at least No Way Out had a pretty good main event. This one did not. So that's kind of the low bar in terms of pay-per-views for me in 07. But anyway, on to No Mercy. Now, before this event happened, John Cena got injured and had to vacate the title, ending his year-long reign as champion. So, what do? They give Randy Orton the title. Which, again, I expected it. I'm like, okay, Orton is on top. Like, he might beat Cena, but to just give him the title and not have him win it in a match. But then right after, we have Triple H come out and he's like, you know, you can't win it that way. And then we get a match between Orton and Triple H. And Triple H wins the title after Orton just got gifted it. So that was kind of weird. And then, because Triple H already had a match against Umaga planned for that night, he beat Umaga in a match for the title, and then Vince McMahon is like, you know what, Orton wants a rematch, so we get another match between Orton and Triple H, but this time it's last man standing, and Orton wins back the title. It was so weird, and I'm not a huge fan of it, but again, I think the story there was I don't think they were fully sold on Orton being champion at that time. But, I don't know, it was so weird, because, like, you give Orton the title, and then he lost it, and then at the end of the night, he just gets it back again. It's like, if you were sold on Randy Orton, just let him keep the title. Like, don't make him defend it, like, have him just keep it until, like, later. It was so weird. But anyway, moving on, we have, oh god. The Punjabi Prison match for the World Heavyweight title. This is a match I never need to see again. I hate the Punjabi Prison. The rules make no sense. it ruins the action completely, where they got these doors that are on timers that open for like, what, a minute, and then they close permanently once you don't go through them in time. And it's like a steel cage match, but it's like 2 structures. I'm not a fan of it. Like, they brought it back in 2017, which we'll get to in the future, but, oh my god, I hate this match. The match between Batista and Kali was just not great. That was bad. The rest of the show, though, was not really that bad, I gotta say. So, for me, it's probably like a high C tier, because here's the thing, right? While I don't agree with them putting the title on Orton and then Triple H and then Orton again, I do think they may have done that to push Orton a bit, because he's given the title and then he beats Triple H in a brutal last man standing match to officially win it, like, you know, officially. But I just think they should have gone about it a different way and not had Orton be given it and then lose it and then win it again. I don't know. I just didn't really agree with that. But the show overall was fine. It wasn't bad, but it was just, there were some decisions in there that were just kind of questionable for me. Alright, now we're on to Cyber Sunday. So, the way this works, if you guys don't know, is that basically the audience picks the matches, the opponents, and the stipulations. So, they choose who challenges for what title, they choose what type of match certain people have to compete in, and they choose who certain people face. So, for this one, we had a stretcher match between Mysterio and Finlay. That was a pretty good opener. We had Punk face The Miz. We had Jeff Hardy against Mr. Kennedy. We had HBK against Randy Orton for the WWE title. Pretty okay match. Street fight between Triple H and Umaga. That was probably the best match of the night. And then the main event, we had Batista yet again against The Undertaker. It just won't ever end. For the world title with Stone Cold Steve Austin as the guest referee. Now, if you guys don't know, I'm not a big fan of guest referee matches because a lot of the time the referee gets a bit too involved, and it does kind of take away from the overall quality of the match. But right here, he didn't get involved at all, I think, right? I don't think Stone Cold got involved at all in this match. Maybe, like, to, like, you know, break up, like, submissions and whatnot, but as far as, like, you know, straight up fighting the opponent or fighting each person in the ring, he didn't do that, and that made it more enjoyable for me. But on an overall sense, this show is another, like, this year had pretty alright pay-per-views. Not really bad per se, but not that memorable. Like, there were 2 that were great, which is SummerSlam and WrestleMania. But Cyber Sunday, I would say probably a B. No, because we had a countout and a DQ finish, like, back-to-back. I would say probably C. Maybe, like, below, I would say about, like, no, yeah, I would say right there. I would say right there. Because, again, we have a countout finish and then a DQ finish back-to-back. That really shouldn't happen. I can't stand, like, especially for world title matches. We had HBK beat Randy Orton by DQ. Like, seriously? I don't ever like when big matches end in such crappy finishes. But it was good storytelling, but just not an overall fan of it. I hate finishes like that. Alright, now we're on to Survivor Series. Now, this one has some bias, and here's why. This is the very first WWE pay-per-view I ever owned on DVD when I started watching the sport officially. So I think I watched around No Mercy, and then I kept up with the shows afterwards. And then I think right before WrestleMania the following year came out, I got Survivor Series on DVD because I couldn't watch pay-per-views live at that time for reasons. So this show for me has a bit of bias, but I'll rank it as fairly as I can. So we had a pretty good triple threat opener between CM Punk, Morrison, and The Miz for the ECW title, We had a pretty mid Divas tag team match. We had Cody Rhodes and Hardcore Holly in a World Tag Team title match. Pretty okay for the most part. We had a handicap 4-on-5 elimination match between Team Triple H and Team Umaga because Matt Hardy was injured the week before and couldn't compete, unfortunately, and then Triple H's team still won. So, there you go. We had the Great Khali against Hornswoggle. Oh my god. I'm not going to go into that. It's a terrible match. We had Orton against Shawn Michaels in a pretty underrated WWE title match where I think Michaels couldn't use the super kick and then Orton couldn't get DQ'd or else he would lose the title. And it made for a pretty interesting dynamic where Shawn Michaels wanted to super kick Orton's face off and he couldn't, so it kind of cost him the match. But pretty good storytelling and overall good action. And then the main event, we have Hell in a Cell for the world title between Batista and guess who it is? The Undertaker. Now, I will say this match was pretty damn good. I think this might be one of the most underrated Hell in a Cell matches in history. Like, it wasn't the best by far, but it was pretty violent, it was brutal, and it was pretty damn good to watch. And then, of course, we had Edge at the end make his grand return and cost Undertaker the match, which was kind of weird because Batista isn't a heel. Like, both guys were good guys, but yet Edge cost the Undertaker the title and doesn't even touch Batista at all. But, I don't know, that didn't really hurt the match overall for me. So honestly, I want to put an A, but Khali and Hornswoggle was terrible. The Divas match was terrible. Well, not terrible, but it was kind of mid. But honestly, the rest of the card was pretty solid, so I put it in a B tier. Maybe, like, above even... No, not Backlash. That was probably, like, the highest B tier. Survivor Series, for me, is probably about right here, I would say. See, I want to put it here so bad, but I know I can't. I gotta be as fair as possible. I have some bias, but... I can see it being put, like, maybe right here below Backlash. So, pretty good pay-per-view overall. I enjoyed it, and it was a good one to own on DVD back in the day, so there you go. Alright, the final one we have for 07 is Armageddon. This one might be an A tier already. I can tell just by the matches that we have here. We have Mysterio and MVP in a pretty, okay, the opener was kind of just mid. Because we had a stupid count-out finish from MVP, so that was kind of a downer. The CM Punk and Kane match with them and Big Daddy B and Mark Henry, that was alright for the most part. Not great, but it was alright. We had Michaels against Mr. Kennedy in a pretty solid match. We had Hardy against Triple H in another really, really good match. We had Finlay against the Great Khali, which was somehow a lot better than Hornswoggle in the Great Khali, but that was not hard to top anyway. It was still just an okay match, but it was fine. We had Chris Jericho against Randy Orton for the WWE title, in which JBL got involved and cost Jericho the title. Good match overall, but again, I'm not a big fan of DQ finishes in world title matches, but I get why they wanted to do that, because they were trying to have Jericho fight JBL in the future for a feud, so it makes sense. And then the main event, we have Edge, Batista, and The Undertaker in a triple threat match for the world title. Now, if you guys don't remember, Edge actually lost the title because of injury, so he was never pinned or submitted. And at that time, he had a pretty big feud with The Undertaker and Batista, so this match just made sense for a main event. Like, you have Edge against Batista and The Undertaker. He hates both of them. And then, of course, we have The Undertaker and Batista continuing their rivalry. And, wasn't this where the Edgeheads first debuted, too? We had Hawkins and Ryder, and then that ended up helping Edge win. So, that was good. But yeah, honestly, overall, this might be a very, very low A tier. It was pretty enjoyable for the most part. Like, the match quality was better than a lot of these other ones that we've seen so far. And the main event was pretty good in getting Edge to get his title back, and we have, of course, the Edgeheads debuted. And yeah, overall, pretty good match quality. So there we go. And with that, we are done. We got 3 in A tier, we got 5 in B tier, and we got 7 in C tier. So yeah, this year was just not. it wasn't bad, but like the pay-per-views were just kind of mid to okay for the most part. Like there were some good moments here and there, like SummerSlam, WrestleMania, Armageddon, even Backlash is like very, very close to an A tier. But on an overall sense, it was just a mid to okay year for WWE. And yeah, not the best in terms of overall match quality and moments, but for what it was good, and I enjoyed it. So, yeah, we'll rank 08 next time, and then 09, and so on and so on. So, stay tuned for that, but, hope y'all enjoyed. Leave a like and a comment, and let me know in the comments what you guys think. Do you guys think that WrestleMania was bad? Did you guys think that, what is it, No Way Out was somehow better than the A tiers? Let me know in the comments, and let me know what your thoughts are, and I will see you guys in the future for more wrestling tier lists, as well as other tier lists in the future. And yeah, I guess till next time, bye.